Hello, and welcome back to another War Thunder video, where today's video is going to be about the Boomerang Mark 1. The Boomerang Mark 1 is an Rank 2 premium Australian fighter at a battle rating of 3.0 in realistic battles and 3.3 in arcade battles. And you might be wondering why I'm calling this aircraft self-explanatory. Well, that's because this aircraft, it's an extremely good turn fighter. The Boomerang Mark 1, it's a really interesting aircraft because it's pretty much purely a turn fighter. It's almost impossible to use it as a boom and zoomer. So, first thing you should notice actually with taking off, this plane, if you pull up too early, it starts to bounce. So you might pull up your gear too early and it'll actually break off, since this plane, it bounces once if you pull it up early. So you should always watch out for that. And this plane, it's a pretty bad climber in my opinion. I don't really like to use it as a climber because it has huge problems with climbing. So mobility wise, it uses a Pratt & Whitney S3C4G engine with a max speed of 491 kilometers per hour at 5,100 meters, and has a 22.3 second turn time and a 14.9 meters per second climb rate. That's what I have currently on the vehicle. And it's an excellent turn fighter, but it's a horrible climber. You can see my engine and oil, they overheat so quickly, and that's a huge problem. You cannot use the WEP for long, and it's only in the beginning that you can use it for maybe 30 seconds, but then it just runs out very, very quickly. So now I'm just starting to climb. I'm just trying to match my team at least a little bit. But you can see how low I am compared to my teammates that are things like Spitfires. So I'm still trying to climb a bit. It's very hard to climb in this aircraft since you can't use the WEP for long, because everything just overheats so quickly. So this plane, it's an extremely good turn fighter, and that's why it's self-explanatory. It can easily outturn Japanese turn fighters, except that Japanese fighters, they can easily boom and zoom it to death. And that's a huge problem, because this plane, since it can't go to very high altitude, since it has such engine issues with the WEP and it's not a very good climber, you could see that I'm only at 2,000 meters and my team, they're already very high up. At least maybe 1,000 meters above. So you could see that this plane, it has a hard time with climbing. Armament-wise, it has two 20mm Hispano Mark II cannons with 120 rounds, 60 per gun, and four 7.7 Browning machine guns with 4,000 rounds, 1,000 per gun. So these are very punchy guns for a battle rating of 3.0. And while the Hispanos, they run out of ammo quite quickly, the Brownings, they can quickly make short work of your enemies. So ammunition wise, I recommend stealth for the Brownings and air targets for the Hispanos, since you should really learn to use stealth for the Brownings, since they can actually really rip up your enemies quickly. And the 20mm, they can also destroy with the air target rounds. So you can see I'm only at 3,000 meters, and my enemies, they're already much higher than me, and these are German aircraft. Imagine Japanese aircraft. This plane, it has a really hard time with climbing. So you could see, and this is actually why I'm side climbing. As you can see, I'm trying to stay away from my enemies so I can at least get to maybe 4,000 meters if I'm lucky to use to my advantage. So you can see I'm just staying away from my enemies, and this BF-110 starts to go my way, and I'm a bit worried about him because he can easily boom and zoom me. So I'm just trying to gain some speed so I can quickly go into an evasive if he starts to try to dive on me. So he actually starts to dive on this F4F on my team. So I'm going to have to watch out for the BF-110. So now I just start to climb again. But you can see the oil already overheated, and even if you let it cool down, it you don't have to wait long for the WEP until it overheats again. So I start to go into evasive against this BF-109 because he starts to go after me. So I go into evasive and I decide to turn around. And my teammate's going after him, and you're going to see that my teammate gets the BF-109 in a second. So while it has very good weapons, it can only really use them in a turn fight, since this plane it's pretty slow and it rips up very quickly. I think it starts to get really damaged at 660 kilometers per hour. But you should always watch out when diving in this aircraft, because you can rip it up so quickly, and that could end you very quickly. So I see these 3 enemies, I'm pretty sure that's 3, attacking my teammate. So I'm going to start to go down after them. So you can see I lower my throttle all the way, just so I don't rip up my wings quickly. And this plane also, you shouldn't really use it as a bomber hunter, since the guns, they can be a little bad against bombers. If you can go into a head-on with a bombers, they usually have sort of weaker guns, and you could see I get a very nice kill on this BF-109 F1 with the pilot snipe. And you should really watch out with attacking bombers unless you're going to a head-on where you could easily get their pilot. But you should always watch out, since these guns, they're not the best at bomber hunting. So you can see I get a very nice fire on this C-202, and I damage his engine, and he's going to go down eventually. So you can see I'm going at somewhat high speeds for the Boomerang at least, and I'm easily outturning this Focke-Wulf 190A, and I get a double kill since the C-202 dies at the same time as the Focke-Wulf 190. So historically, it was built off of the Boomerang was built off of the Whirlaway, and while it was very maneuverable at low altitudes, it was slow, and it did not perform very well at high altitudes where a lot of Japanese aircraft were. And also, the Boomerang Mark II, it's pretty much the same aircraft, it's very similar, and here I'm showing you the post-game stats, since that round, all that was left was really chasing after the last enemy, and I didn't get the kill anyway. So you can see I get quite a bit of RP and almost 50,000 gold silver lines. Yeah. So here you see me going after this BB. Normally I would not recommend this, but since this was one of the last enemies on their team, and I wanted to help my teammate out with getting rid of him, I decide to help. So he starts to put on a light show, and that's a pretty painful light show. So I have to go to lower altitude, so it's harder for him to hit me. And he still hits me, and my fuel leaks actually. So that's a little bit of a problem. But I'm slowly getting closer. So since the Brownings, they have a lot of ammunition, they can actually work quite well with bomber hunting, and the stealth rounds, they're pretty powerful. So that's why I'm telling you to use the stealth rounds instead of any other rounds for the Brownings, since they are pretty powerful. So now I'm just trying to get closer to him. You can see his giant flaps coming off. And that thing has a lot of crew, because It's a gigantic aircraft, and it's very hard to kill. So, and you encounter a lot of these because people really like them. So that's why I'm showing you how this plane can deal with them, and why if you don't have to attack them, don't. But if you have to, well, then you have no choice. So he starts to put on more light shows, but he seems to be a bit inaccurate. So I tried to aim for his engines, but I'm getting nothing out of that. So luckily I have a lot of ammunition. But I finally get rid of him. So that's going to be about the end. I just thought it was a bit funny to see this little aircraft destroy that gigantic aircraft. But that's going to be about the end. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.